The rain fell hard on the old cabin. Park Ji-won pulled his coat tighter as he walked home. At 73, his bones ached in the cold, wet weather. Lightning flashed across the dark sky. Ji-won had lived alone since his wife died 5 years ago. He moved from the busy city to this quiet mountain cabin. After 40 years working as an aerospace engineer, he wanted peace. Another flash of lightning lit up the path ahead. Ji-won stopped. There was something, or someone, lying near his woodpile. He moved closer, his heart beating faster. "Hello," he called out. No answer. When he reached the figure, Ji-won gasped. It wasn't human. The small body had bluish-purple skin that seemed to glow faintly. The creature looked female, with delicate features, but had 3 closed eyes on her face. She wore torn clothing made of a material Ji-won had never seen before. "Dear heavens," Ji-won whispered. His first thought was that he should call someone. The police, the government, anyone. But the creature looked hurt. She was breathing, but barely. Without thinking further, Ji-won carefully picked her up. She weighed almost nothing in his arms. He carried her quickly into his cabin and placed her on his couch. Inside, under the warm light, he could see how thin she was. Her ribs showed through her skin. She looked starved. "You poor thing," Ji-won said softly. He covered her with a blanket and checked for injuries. There was a deep cut on her arm and bruises on her legs. Ji-won cleaned and bandaged the cut. As he worked, the creature's middle eye suddenly opened. It was amber-colored and looked directly at him. Fear showed clearly in that strange eye. "It's okay," Ji-won said gently. "I won't hurt you." The creature tried to move away but was too weak. Her breathing became faster. "You're safe here," Ji-won continued in his calm voice. He slowly offered a cup of water. The alien hesitated, then took the cup with shaking hands. She had 6 fingers on each hand. She drank the water quickly, spilling some down her chin. "Hungry?" Ji-won asked, miming eating food. All 3 eyes opened now. They blinked in sequence, top to bottom. She nodded weakly. Ji-won went to his kitchen and returned with rice and soup. He watched as the creature ate everything rapidly, like someone who hadn't seen food in days. "My name is Ji-won," he said, pointing to himself. "Ji-won." The alien looked at him for a long moment. Then she pointed to herself and made a sound like "Nari." "Nari," Ji-won repeated, smiling. "Nice to meet you." That night, Ji-won couldn't sleep. He sat in a chair near the couch, watching his strange guest. Questions filled his mind. Where did she come from? How did she get here? Were others looking for her? Around midnight, Nari became restless in her sleep. She mumbled words in a language Ji-won couldn't understand. Her hands moved as if trying to operate controls. Suddenly, she sat up with a cry of fear. "It's okay," Ji-won said, moving to her side. "You're safe." Nari's eyes darted around the room, then fixed on Ji-won. Slowly, her breathing calmed. The next morning, Ji-won woke to find Nari examining his bookshelf. She held a world atlas, turning pages with great interest. "Good morning," Ji-won said. Nari turned and pointed to the map of Korea, then to the floor, making a questioning sound. "Yes, this is Korea." "Earth," Ji-won said. He pointed to the planet Earth and a small solar system model on his shelf. Nari's eyes widened. She pointed to the model, then upward, then to herself. She made a sweeping gesture with her arm across the sky. "You're from out there, from space?" Ji-won asked, pointing up. Nari nodded. Over breakfast, Nari tried to communicate more. She drew symbols on paper that Ji-won didn't understand. Then she drew a small ship and acted out it falling, crashing. "Your ship crashed," Ji-won said, understanding now. "That's how you got here." Throughout the day, they exchanged simple words. Ji-won pointed to objects and said their Korean names. Nari tried to repeat them. By evening, Nari could say water, food, and thank you in Korean. As the sun set, Juwon saw Neri looking out the window at the stars with sadness in her 3 eyes. Home? Juwon asked gently. Neri nodded slowly. She held up 7 fingers, then pointed to a faint star barely visible in the evening sky. That's very far away, Juwon said. Neri looked at him, and a single tear ran down her cheek. Juwon took her 6-fingered hand in his. You can stay here, he said, until we figure something out. For the first time, Neri's face formed what might have been a smile. The morning sun streamed through the cabin windows. Juwon sat at the table with paper and pencil, teaching Neri simple Korean words. 1 week had passed since he found her in the rain. Tree, Juwon said, drawing a pine tree. Tea tree, Neri repeated. Her voice had a musical quality that made even simple words sound like notes in a song. Neri was learning quickly. Already she knew 50 Korean words. Juwon was amazed by her intelligence. She picked up language faster than any human could. After their morning lesson, Juwon cooked rice and vegetables. Neri watched closely, her 3 eyes blinking in sequence when she was curious. She had gained some weight in the past week. Her bluish-purple skin looked healthier now. You try, Juwon said, offering her the wooden spoon. Neri took the spoon carefully in her 6-fingered hand. She copied Juwon's stirring motion exactly. Good, Juwon smiled. After breakfast, Neri motioned for Juwon to follow her. She led him to the small bag she had been carrying when he found her. From it, she pulled out strange metal pieces. They looked like broken parts of something larger. Shipped, she said in Korean, then made a crashing motion with her hands. Parts from your ship, Juwon nodded. His engineer's mind was already examining the unusual metal. It was unlike anything he had seen before. Neri arranged the pieces on the floor in a pattern. One piece looked like a small computer, but it was dark and lifeless. Neri pointed to it, then to the sky, then made a talking gesture with her hand. A communication device, Juwon asked. To contact your people. Neri nodded eagerly. Juwon studied the broken device. I'll help you fix it, he said. In his work shed, Juwon found his old tools. Though retired for years, he still kept everything in perfect order. Neri watched with interest as he opened the alien device carefully. Inside was technology beyond anything on Earth. Tiny crystals connected by hair-thin wires glowed faintly when touched. Juwon whistled softly. Amazing, he said. Neri pointed to different parts, trying to explain their purpose. Though Juwon couldn't understand her words, his engineering experience helped him grasp the basic principles. They worked together all afternoon. When one approach failed, they tried another. Neri showed surprising patience as Juwon tried different Earth tools on the alien technology. By evening, they had made progress. The device hummed softly when connected to a power source Juwon created, but it still couldn't send signals. We'll try again tomorrow, Juwon said, patting Neri's shoulder. That night, while eating dinner, Neri suddenly stood up. She went to her bag and pulled out a small round object. It projected a 3-dimensional image above the table. Juwon gasped. The image showed a beautiful planet with 3 moons. The land was covered with structures that looked like crystal towers. Home, Neri said softly. Your home, Juwon repeated. It's beautiful. Neri touched the image. It changed to show tall, slender beings with the same bluish-purple skin as hers. They worked in what appeared to be gardens growing strange plants. Family, Juwon asked. Neri's eyes dimmed. She shook her head and made a sweeping motion with her hand across her neck. Gone, Juwon asked gently. Neri nodded. She made eating motions, then pointed to her thin frame. Your people are starving. Juwon understood now. That's why you came here. Looking for food. For a new home. Neri nodded again. She changed the image to show ships leaving her planet. Scouts, she said in Korean. Find new home. Juan sat back in his chair. The story was becoming clear. Nari's people were facing hunger on their dying world. They sent scouts to find new planets to live on. Nari was one of those scouts. Why alone? Juan asked. Nari held up 4 fingers, then 3, then just 1. Herself. You started as 4, then 3, now only you, Juan said. The others didn't make it. Sadness filled Nari's 3 eyes. She nodded slowly. Juan reached across the table and took her hand. I'm sorry. For a moment, they sat in silence. Then Juan stood up. Come with me. He led Nari outside. The night was clear, and stars filled the sky. Tomorrow, Juan said, pointing to his tools, then to her communication device. We will keep trying. Nari looked at the old man, studying his kind face. Then she did something unexpected. She placed her hand over her heart, then touched Juwan's chest lightly. Trust, she said in perfect Korean. Juwan smiled. Yes, trust. As they walked back inside, Juwan realized his lonely life had changed forever. He had found not just an alien, but a friend. 3 weeks had passed, and Nari now spoke Korean quite well. She and Juwan had made progress on repairing her communication device, working together each day in his workshop. Their routine was peaceful. Mornings were for language lessons, afternoons for repair work, and evenings for sharing stories. One sunny afternoon, they were outside testing the signal strength of the repaired device when Juwan heard cars approaching. This was unusual. His cabin was far from the main road, and he rarely had visitors. Someone is coming, Juwan said, suddenly alert. We need to hide you. Nari tilted her head, not understanding the danger. Why hide? Not everyone would understand. Juwan explained quickly. Some humans might be afraid of you, or want to take you away for study. Nari's 3 eyes widened. She gathered her device quickly. Follow me, Juwan said. He led her to a small trap door hidden under a rug in his bedroom. Below was a small basement room he had built years ago to store food for winter. Stay here. Be quiet, he instructed. I'll come get you when it's safe. Nari nodded and climbed down. Juwan closed the trap door and replaced the rug just as car doors slammed outside. When he opened his front door, 3 black SUVs were parked in his yard. 6 men in dark suits approached. They didn't look like local police. Park Juwan. The lead man asked, showing a government ID card. Yes, that's me, Juwan replied calmly. I'm Agent Kim from the National Intelligence Service. We've detected unusual signal activity from this area. May we come in? Juwan's heart beat faster, but his face remained calm. Of course. The agents searched his cabin thoroughly. One carried a device that beeped when it detected electronic signals. Juwan watched nervously as they neared the bedroom. You live alone, Mr. Park? Agent Kim asked. Yes, since my wife passed away, Juwan answered. And what do you do out here all by yourself? I'm retired. I read, fix things, enjoy the quiet. The agent with the signal detector paused near the bedroom rug. The device beeped softly. Juwan held his breath. Sir, we're getting something here, the agent said. Agent Kim frowned. Mr. Park, are you aware that unauthorized communication with foreign entities is a serious offense? I was an aerospace engineer for 40 years, Juwan said firmly. I have many old devices and projects. Nothing illegal. The conversation continued for over an hour. The agents questioned everything. Juwan's past work, his current activities, why he lived so remotely. Finally, they seemed satisfied enough to leave, but with a warning. We'll be watching this area closely, Agent Kim said at the door. Any more unusual signals, and we'll be back with a formal investigation. Juwan nodded respectfully. I understand. He watched from his window until the black SUVs disappeared down the mountain road. Then he rushed to release Nari. We have a problem, he told her as she climbed out. They detected your device's signal. They'll be watching us now. Nari's face showed worry. Bad humans come for me. Not bad, just afraid of what they don't understand, Juan corrected. But yes, they might come back. We need to leave for a while. That night, they packed only essential items. Juan took his old hiking backpack and filled it with food, water, and basic tools. Nari carefully packed her communication device and the small projector showing images of her home world. I know a place, Juan said. A small cabin deeper in the mountains. My father built it when I was a boy. No one knows about it except me. They left before dawn. The forest was dark, but Nari could see better than Juan. She held his arm to guide him over difficult paths. After walking for 6 hours, they reached a small clearing. A tiny wooden cabin stood among tall pine trees. It looked old but solid. We'll be safe here, Juan said, unlocking the dusty door. Inside was simple, one room with a bed, table, chairs, and old wood stove. Juan lit a fire to warm the space. As they ate a simple meal that evening, Nari seemed troubled. What's wrong? Juan asked. I bring danger to you, she said sadly. Not good. Juan shook his head. You didn't choose this, and I didn't have to help. I wanted to. Nari was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that made Juan's blood run cold. Juan, there is more danger. Not just from your people. She pointed to the sky. Others look for me. What others? The Mach, she said. They hunt my people. They follow scouts to find new planets. If they find me, she paused. They find Earth. Juan understood the gravity of her words. These Mach, they're dangerous. Nari nodded. Very strong. Warriors. They see my kind as weak. They take our technology, make us work for them. She looked directly at Juan. If they come, they do same to humans. Juan sat back in his chair. The government agents now seemed like a small problem compared to this new threat. How long before they might find us? He asked. Nari looked at her communication device. If signal reached space, maybe days, maybe weeks. Juan's face grew determined. Then we have work to do. For 5 days, Juan and Nari worked without rest. The small cabin became a workshop filled with tools and strange devices. Juan used his engineering skills, while Nari provided knowledge of alien technology. The Mach ships use this frequency to communicate, Nari explained, adjusting the settings on a modified radio. We can detect them before they land. Juan nodded as he connected wires to the device they had built. It looked like a mess of Earth electronics mixed with alien parts from Nari's broken equipment. But it worked. How will we defend ourselves? Juan asked. I have no weapons that could stop aliens. Nari smiled, her 3 eyes blinking in sequence. Mach technology has a weakness. Their ships and weapons use a specific energy field. We can disrupt it. On the 6th morning, their detection device began to beep loudly. Juan checked the screen and saw a small dot moving toward their location. They're coming, he said, his voice calm despite his racing heart. Nari checked the readings. 1 scout ship, 2, maybe 3 Mach warriors. They moved quickly, setting up their defensive equipment around the cabin. Juan placed small devices at strategic points that would create an energy field when activated. By noon, they were ready. They sat in the cabin, watching the detection screen as the dot came closer. Are you afraid? Nari asked. Juan thought for a moment. Yes, but sometimes we must stand against danger, even when afraid. Nari touched his hand with her 6 fingers. My people say courage is not absence of fear, but acting despite it. Your people are wise. Juan smiled. The detection device beeped faster. The Mach ship was now very close. Remember the plan, Juan said. When they enter our field, their weapons will fail. Then we talk. Nari looked doubtful. Mach do not like to talk. Then we'll make them listen, Juan said firmly. They waited in silence. Then they heard it, a low humming sound coming from outside. Through the cabin window, they saw a small ship land in the clearing. It was sleek and dark, with sharp edges that made it look dangerous. The ship's door opened. Two tall figures stepped out. They were nearly 7 feet tall, with thick, gray skin that looked like armor. Their faces had 4 eyes and no visible nose. They carried weapons that glowed with blue light. "Mock warriors," Neri whispered, fear in her voice. The Mocks scanned the area, then walked toward the cabin. Their movements were strong and confident. "Now," Juwan said, pressing a button on their device. A wave of energy pulsed outward from the cabin. The blue light on the Mock weapons flickered and died. The warriors stopped, clearly surprised. Juwan stepped outside, standing straight despite his old age. Nari followed, staying slightly behind him. "Welcome to Earth," Juwan called out. "I believe you're looking for us." The larger Mock stepped forward. "I am Commander Crag of the Mock Empire. You will return the Duri Scout to us immediately." His voice was deep and cold. "The Duri Scout has a name," Juwan replied. "It's Neri, and she's under my protection." Crag made a sound like harsh laughter. "Protection? You are one old human. We are Mock warriors. Your primitive planet cannot stop us. Yet your weapons aren't working," Juwan pointed out calmly. "That seems like a problem for you." The second Mock tried to activate his weapon again, but nothing happened. Anger showed on his alien face. "This is a minor setback," Crag said. "Our main fleet will come. They will take this planet and all its resources." "I don't think so," Juwan said. He held up a small device. "This is transmitting your ship's location to Earth's defense forces right now. They're on their way." This was partly true. Before leaving his main cabin, Juwan had called an old friend from his days in aerospace engineering, a man who now worked for the government. He had told him enough to raise alarms without mentioning Nari. The Mock warriors looked at each other, saying something in their own language. They moved quickly, setting up their defensive equipment around the cabin. Juwan placed small devices at strategic points that would create an energy field when activated. By noon, they were ready. They sat in the cabin, watching the detection screen as the dot came closer. "Are you afraid?" Nari asked. Juwan thought for a moment. "Yes, but sometimes we must stand against danger, even when afraid." Nari touched his hand with her 6 fingers. "My people say courage is not absence of fear, but acting despite it. Your people are wise." Juwan smiled. The detection device beeped faster. The Mock ship was now very close. "Remember the plan," Juwan said. "When they enter our field, their weapons will fail. Then we talk." Nari looked doubtful. "Mock do not like to talk." "Then we'll make them listen," Juwan said firmly. They waited in silence. Then they heard it, a low humming sound coming from outside. Through the cabin window, they saw a small ship land in the clearing. It was sleek and dark, with sharp edges that made it look dangerous. The ship's door opened. 2 tall figures stepped out. They were nearly 7 feet tall, with thick, gray skin that looked like armor. Their faces had 4 eyes and no visible nose. They carried weapons that glowed with blue light. "Mock warriors," Neri whispered, fear in her voice. The Mocks scanned the area, then walked toward the cabin. Their movements were strong and confident. "Now," Juwan said, pressing a button on their device. A wave of energy pulsed outward from the cabin. The blue light on the Mock weapons flickered and died. The warriors stopped, clearly surprised. Juwan stepped outside, standing straight despite his old age. Nari followed, staying slightly behind him. "Welcome to Earth," Juwan called out. "I believe you're looking for us." The larger Mock stepped forward. "I am Commander Crag of the Mock Empire. You will return the Duri Scout to us immediately." His voice was deep and cold. "The Duri Scout has a name," Juwan replied. "It's Neri, and she's under my protection." Crag made a sound like harsh laughter. Protection. You are one old human. We are mock warriors. Your primitive planet cannot stop us. Yet your weapons aren't working. Juan pointed out calmly. That seems like a problem for you. The second mock tried to activate his weapon again, but nothing happened. Anger showed on his alien face. This is a minor setback, Crag said. Our main fleet will come. They will take this planet and all its resources. I don't think so, Juan said. He held up a small device. This is transmitting your ship's location to Earth's defense forces right now. They're on their way. This was partly true. Before leaving his main cabin, Juan had called an old friend from his days in aerospace engineering, a man who now worked for the government. He had told him enough to raise alarms without mentioning Neri. The mock warriors looked at each other, saying something in their own language. You lie, Crag said, but he sounded less certain. Suddenly, they heard helicopter sounds in the distance. The Korean military was indeed coming, though they didn't know exactly what they were looking for. Last chance, Juan said. Leave now or face Earth's military. And be warned, we now know how to disable your technology. Crag's 4 eyes narrowed. This is not over, human. The mock do not forget. The warriors backed toward their ship, keeping their eyes on Juan and Neri. When they reached it, they quickly entered and closed the door. Juan and Neri watched as the ship rose into the air and disappeared into the clouds. They will return, Neri said softly, with more ships. Juan nodded. Yes, but now we have time to prepare. And we won't be alone. As 3 military helicopters appeared over the trees, Juan put his arm around Neri's shoulders. Sometimes, he said, standing up to a bully is the only way to show them you're stronger than they think. Neri looked up at the brave old man beside her. Earth is lucky to have you, Juan. And I'm lucky to have found you, he replied with a smile. The government building in Seoul was large and busy. People in suits walked quickly through hallways carrying papers and talking on phones. In a special room on the top floor, Juan sat at a long table with important-looking officials. The mock fleet is 3 months away from Earth, said General Lee, pointing to a screen showing dots moving in space. Thanks to the information from Neri, we've been able to track them. 3 months had passed since the encounter with the mock scouts. Everything had changed. At first, the military had been suspicious of Neri, keeping her in a secure facility for weeks. But Juan had refused to leave her side, insisting she was Earth's best hope. He had been right. Neri's knowledge of alien technology had given Earth a fighting chance. She taught engineers how to create better defenses and weapons. Countries around the world worked together, preparing for the coming invasion. And the signal to Neri's people? Juan asked. Any response? Dr. Kim, the head scientist, nodded. Yes, we received a message yesterday. The Duri fleet has changed course to intercept the mock. They will help us. Neri, who sat beside Juan wearing special dark glasses to hide her 3 eyes in public, smiled. My people are not warriors, but they are loyal. They will not let Earth face the mock alone. The meeting continued for hours. Plans were made for defense systems and evacuation procedures. Through it all, Juan noticed how Neri spoke with confidence now. She was no longer the scared, starving alien girl he had found in the rain. She had become strong and respected. After the meeting, Juan and Neri walked through a park near the government building. It was a warm spring day. Children played while parents watched from benches. Neri, Juan said as they sat under a cherry tree, I have something to ask you. Neri turned to him, her hidden eyes curious behind the dark glasses. Juan pulled out an official-looking paper. I've asked the government for permission to adopt you legally. It took some special arrangements, but they've agreed. Neri stared at the document. Adopt, like family. Yes, Juan nodded. You would legally be my daughter. Park Neri. Tears formed in Neri's eyes, making the dark glasses fog slightly. I haven't had family since leaving my world. You don't have to answer now, Juan said gently. It's a big decision. Neri shook her head. No need to wait. My answer is yes. She took Juan's hand. You saved me. You protected me. You are already my family in my heart. 1 week later, in a small private ceremony, the adoption became official. President Kang himself signed the special document making Neri the first non-human to become a legal citizen of Earth. In recognition of her service to humanity, the president said during the ceremony, and in acknowledgement of the bond formed between two beings from different worlds. That evening, Juan and Neri returned to the mountain cabin. The government had offered them a house in Seoul, but they preferred the quiet of the mountains. The cabin had been expanded and fitted with special communication equipment so they could stay in touch with officials. As they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Neri removed her dark glasses. Her 3 amber eyes blinked in the fading light. Father, she said, trying the word carefully. Is that the right word to call you now? Juan smiled, his old face crinkling with happiness. Yes, if you want to use it. On my world, we have a special word for someone who saves another's life and then becomes family. It means the one who makes life continue when it should have ended. That's a beautiful concept, Juan said. What is the word? Neri made a musical sound that Juan couldn't quite repeat. I'll just stick with father, he laughed. They sat in comfortable silence as stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Do you think we'll win? Neri asked suddenly, against the mock. Juan considered this. I don't know, but I know humans are stronger than they look. We're stubborn. We don't give up easily. Like a certain old engineer I know, Neri said with a smile. Exactly, Juan nodded. And now we have friends among the stars. Your people are coming to help us. A shooting star crossed the sky above them. They both watched it, making wishes in their own ways. Whatever happens, Juan said, we'll face it together. As family. As family, Neri repeated, the words clearly precious to her. Inside the cabin, a device beeped. It was the special communicator linked to the Space Monitoring Center. Juan went to check it, Neri following close behind. The screen showed a message. Duri Fleet has engaged mock ships near Jupiter's orbit. First reports indicate mock retreat. Good news, Juan said with relief. Neri nodded, but looked thoughtful. This is just the beginning. Earth is now part of something much larger. Yes, Juan agreed. But that's tomorrow's worry. Tonight, we celebrate our new family. He went to the kitchen and returned with 2 cups of tea. They raised them in a toast. To finding home, Neri said, across the stars. To family, Juan added, whatever form it takes. As they drank their tea, both felt a sense of peace despite the challenges ahead. In the most unexpected way, a lonely old man and a starving alien girl had found what they both needed most, each other.